The book of Jonah features one of the most recognized stories in the Old Testament. The story, unlike Jonah himself, can be a little difficult to swallow, but if we can look past the unbelievable nature of the tale and really look for the underlying message, I think we can learn a lot from the famous prophet. The main thing I take away from the story is this: when God calls us to his purpose, we can go one of two ways: by foot or by fish. And how much better it is for us when we go by foot. As the story goes, God tells Jonah to go to the city of Nineveh and tell them that God will destroy them if they don't change their ways. Now Nineveh was the capital of modern-day Syria, and typically was not on good terms with the nation of Israel. In fact, Jonah hated the Ninevites so much that he refused to do what God commanded because he knew that God, being forgiving and compassionate, would let the city off the hook. He didn't want that. This particular passage is often looked over, I think, when Bible critics make the claim that the God of the Old Testament is full of wrath and judgment. Determined to see Nineveh destroyed, Jonah boards a boat and begins heading the opposite direction. When a terrible storm hits, the sailors find Jonah asleep in the hold of the ship and bring him up on the deck. They are certain that the storm is a result of God's punishment and cast lots in order to see who is to blame. Jonah is singled out, and recognizing the peril he has placed the sailors in, he tells them to throw him overboard. I'm convinced that even this decision was still an act of running from God's command. In Jonah's own mind, even dying was preferable to being God's instrument in bringing about Nineveh's salvation. Well, the sailors reluctantly throw him overboard, asking God to forgive them in the process. Immediately, the storm dissipates, and they all praise and fear God, bearing witness to his power. It's at this point the story gets a little weird. As Jonah is sinking into the cold, black depths of the sea, God sends a fish to swallow him. There's a very interesting detail to this part of the story that I only recently learned. The fact that God chose to save Jonah's life with a fish is ironic, because one of the sins of Nineveh was their worship of Dagon, a half-man, half-fish deity. While in the belly of the fish, Jonah cries out to God in prayer. He gives God thanks for preserving his life, despite not deserving it. He was literally thanking God for the very thing he didn't want Nineveh to receive. By the end of the story, Jonah is spit up on land by the fish and commanded again to go to Nineveh. He obeys this time, warning the city to either repent or face destruction. Then he goes up on a hill to watch the city and see what happens to them. The people of Nineveh repent, and God extends the same mercy to them that he extended to Jonah when he appointed the fish to preserve his life. There's one final closing scene to the story where Jonah is so angry that he wants to die. Partly because he wants so badly for the Ninevites to receive the punishment they deserve, partly because the plant he was using for shade died. God responds to Jonah's anger by pointing out his entitlement. Why should Jonah be so upset over a plant dying while also being eager to watch an entire city of over 100,000 people to be destroyed? Jonah is one of those books where I learn something new every time I read it. Right now, I feel like God's teaching me about fairness. We have a tendency to make up our own minds on how God should behave. And when he doesn't do what is fair in our own estimation, we sometimes we'll turn our backs on him.